JJ Ruescas, and this is a special episode. Where we'll talk about my journey during the 10-day Silent Vipassana retreat. This experience has been one of the most transformative ones in my life from different angles, not only from the experience itself, but what surrounded the experience, the before, during, and after. And many of you have asked me about this, so I said, why not recording a video like this when I explain openly what has happened internally in many facets so that you can learn from my experience. Now, disclaimer, I'm going to probably give you too much information, and I will respect wherever you want to stop the video. I will respect if you do not like this video, or even if you like it. It is, for me, my intention is to share as much as I can, as authentically as I can, with you that ask me about this experience, and hopefully we're gonna find a way to dissect and learn from this experience that I went through. So if you want to know more about the entire format of this Vipassana retreat, I invite you to go check the other episode with my friends Marina and Hannah. We talked about the logistics of the retreat, how was it during the day by day, and you're gonna have more information there. In this video, I'm gonna explain you exactly my own experience. Just to give you a context, this is a 10-day silent retreat. There is no talking, no eye gazing, no touch with other people, no reading, no writing. So we're basically isolated. We're completely isolated. And here I have my notes just in case. So this one also posed a challenge for me because I'm someone who thrives in connection with other people. Especially, I did not realize how much the touch, the tactile inputs, not only input, but also how I express myself, was affected by this. 10 days of doing this was definitely tough. I realized how, because this is a physical need that I have, to be close in proximity with other people, I started shrinking as if a flower would not be watered. So that was, you can imagine by day 2, how ended up by day number 10, right? Now, let's talk about the format in the retreat. We're basically meditating from 4:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Obviously, there are intervals for breaks, but those breaks are for lunch and for a walk. We cannot even work out, right? And so I start getting into this state of, okay, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to meditate, meaning we were supposed to focus on this part of the nostrils, from the upper lip to the nostrils, to bring our attention there over and over again. So I sit down, I put my hands on the lap, and guess what's the first thing that happens? My mind gets distracted, right? And something that have happened in my own life prior to the retreat is that I was having lots of relationship issues. So my mind started getting into that topic over and over and over again. Side note, I made an impromptu research survey at the end of the retreat where I asked people what was the main topic of distractions that their minds brought into the meditation. Guess what? All of them were getting distracted with relationships. All of them. Anyway, coming back to my story, this topic, or this distraction about relationships, romantic relationships, was taking my mind to the past or the future, past, future, past, future, past, future, mostly leaning into the future. And every 5 seconds, I would have another thought and another thought and another thought, and it was freaking frustrating, right? I'm trying to focus on this area, no, maybe at some point every 20-30 minutes I would realize that my mind was wandering, and I bring it back, and I would get more frustrated, and I would try again, and within the next 5 seconds again my mind would get distracted, and another 20 minutes probably I will forget where my mind was until I realized it. And it was crazy. Something that I realized is that my mind was getting into different scenarios in this topic of distraction, but my heartbeat was going crazy as if it would be happening at this precise moment. Now, this is not something new for me. I know the power of how the mind can influence the nervous system, but at this moment it was taking it to another level. My heart felt like a ball in a china store. At some points, I felt so much anger or other emotions, for example, that I thought I was yelling when in reality it was this inner voice within me that was just yelling and yelling, and my mind was yelling. So think about it. The moment that my mouth got shut, my mind went wild. I couldn't write, I couldn't read, I couldn't express in any way to anyone. And so my mind started just going all over the place, creating scenarios that did not exist or going back into past scenarios and trying to recreate it and trying to have a different output, right? Therefore, the physicality was also getting very affected. One of the things that also happened, I can say that I lost my mind twice, if it was not three times. Now, what does losing my mind mean? At some point, I started losing track of time. I didn't know what time during the day was. I didn't know what day was it because it was basically Groundhog Day. Every day was pretty much the same. And my mind started getting into this dreamy trance state, which was very tough with this desire to focus on again on the nostrils and the distractions. And so I started losing touch with reality. At some point, I remember I was walking in the hallways and seeing the other people also walking, and everyone in their own worlds, not being able to connect. It felt like a movie, right? And that's when the mental and emotional pain started to increase the volume. Now I have to confess the following. Within this mental self-inflicted pain, because my mind was doing everything, I started having some realizations, and some realizations that I'm not proud of, but that I need to observe them for what they are. First of all, I realized how I love supporting people. I'm someone who believes that every human being has a purpose, and that purpose in some capacity is to help other human beings. And so it's easy for me to put myself into this situation of supporting other people. That's actually what I do in the one-on-ones, for example, when I'm training leaders, people that want to optimize their life to the next level, right? Now, in this situation, I realize that I may start in romantic relationships with this notion of I'm going to give it all, I'm going to support this person, this relationship, etc. But at some point, my mind, this optimizer or strategic mind, I should say, this strategic mind that I have, starts using this I will give you, I will support you strategy as a way to manufacture the need for the other person to give me what I want. Basically, manipulation, right? And it turns nasty because I basically do not tell what I want, and I want the other person to come and fulfill my needs, which is clearly not good, right? And not only that, there were some thoughts that I had, this one maybe since I was 5 or maybe 7 years old, where if I was pleasing someone and then I did not receive what I wanted, I started becoming very resentful. And at some point, it would turn into me imagining scenarios where I was gone, whether it's gone from the picture and the person does not access to me anymore, or I was dead. And it was not about me. It was about trying to inflict pain in the other person that I do believed that did not love me the way that I wanted, did not treat me the way that I wanted. Freaking nasty. I call that one the Punisher. I was trying to punish the Punisher. I was trying to punish people with my mind and everything. And the only thing I was doing is creating more suffering and misery for myself, right? Now, not only that, another part of me started cracking. Maybe that was the second time that I lose the mind, which was my identity started like fracturing. What do I mean about it? What I do right now, this human optimization strategy, identity that I have created, and I know it's starting to percolate through other realms, is something that I created myself. Basically, I had to fake it till I made it. So I'm continuously reinforcing this identity for years, right? Because obviously it felt that that is the way to define myself, not the standard way was the way to do so. But in the meantime, while I had to do this, I basically lied to myself saying, I am this character, I am this character, I am this character, fake it till you make it. And because of that, I started also spreading all of this, right? Which turned into the business that I have right now. And it turns into obviously parts of the good work that my team and I do, which is supporting people's optimization. But this identity that I have created started cracking, and I thought, for how long am I going to keep lying to myself and lying others? So that was very harsh on me. But there are obviously positive things about it. I'm basically probably recreating an entire industry, the coaching industry. I'm not into that, but I'm combining that with practical personal development and technology. So yeah, I definitely needed to create something like this. Now I'm still figuring out how to navigate this fake it till you make it, because I'm not faking it anymore. This is the identity that I've created, right? Now, I was not the only identity that got shattered. I remember one maybe afternoon, maybe day number 7, I walked into the room, into the restroom. I turn on the light and I see in the mirror this man that has a beard and looks like shocked by life. And I thought, who's this person? And I did not realize that that was me. Shortly after that, I realized that my mind got frozen in time when I was 15 and my grandma died. For some reason, when that event happened, my mind froze. And up to this day, I used to see me still as that teenager many years ago without realizing that my body, my mind, my appearance, everything has changed. But I was seeing myself in this dysmorphia of identity, so to speak, right? And when that mirror event happened, it cracked everything. And that's when I thought, wait, that's how probably people now see me. That's the reason some people come and ask me for advice, because the way that I look, the way that I talk, the way that I portray myself. And that like dawned on me like, oh freak, I have a bigger responsibility than I had. I have to be even more careful with the kind of content that I put out there, with the kind of advice that I put out there, right? And that brought a lot of responsibility. Now, all of that started bringing so much mental pain that at some point it was unbearable. And so I realized that what my mind had been doing is as if it would have grabbed a butcher's knife and it was stabbing myself with butcher's knife while holding the knife from the blade with my bare hand. That's what the mind was doing with all of those thoughts, all the distractions. It was unbearable. And no wonder why at some point I started, or the mind started creating or calculations, making calculations, and realized that an alternative to this pain was suicide. Now, I have never had suicidal thoughts in my life. This is the first time, and I don't say it from an angle of martyrdom. I'm saying it from a mental calculation, understanding what was the mental calculation, thinking or calculating, evaluating that this situation that I was in at that moment was extremely painful, and that finishing everything, game over, was less painful. Obviously, I did not take action on that, and I can feel now compassion for how some people would consider that as an alternative, right? As soon as I stepped out of the mind, because I was embedded in the mind thinking this, as soon as I stepped out and I realized and I thought, wow, interesting. Wow. And I just let it go, right? So that was a breaking point. And Another other insights that I got were the following. First, let's talk a little bit about the four quadrants. This is something that my mind started creating as a way to manage the pain and the situation and come back into the meditation here, meditation in the entire body. And something I realized, and this is part of the training during the retreat, they talk about the concepts of craving and aversion. I added more on that. So first of all, I realized that my mind was going into the past or the future. And I should say, my mind was craving something that was pleasant, mentally pleasant, or averting, trying to avoid something that considered mentally unpleasant. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this more in another video. I'm going to show you those four quadrants, etc. But my mind was playing this game and it was creating these four quadrants: past, future, craving, aversion. And in each one of those quadrants, I was losing. There was no way I was going to win. But at some point, I started realizing that the purpose of the entire meditation was to get the mind, first of all, into the here, into the present, but removing from craving, removing from aversion, right into what it's called an equanimous mind, a balanced mind. Now, that was very interesting because then I started getting other insights. Some of them were a new perspective on mortality. I'm at this moment writing a book on mortality, on death, but I was able to grasp another angle of mortality. And it was the realization that I am right now probably at half of my life, if not past half of my life, which means that I have probably another 4 decades of life, if I'm lucky. But that doesn't mean that I will have the vitality and sharpness of mind that I have right now during that time. Maybe I have 20 years or so. And if nothing happens, I have only 20 years of full potential as a human. And so that is when this notion of what are you going to do with the time and the resources that you have right now, JJ? And there was this idea of, I moved here to the US for something bigger than just living. And I thought, survival is for insects. I came here to thrive. Survival is for insects. I came here to thrive. And this entire energy started flowing through my body. And that was also powered by something that was very profound. I was able to take a look at my own journey of how I got to this very moment. And without getting too much into the details of my journey is very uncommon. Basically, I was in awe while I was doing retrospective of how a kid from a small town in a poor country has near-death experiences and with that takes action and somehow has the opportunity to move to the US, where after a few years he gets kicked out of the country and he becomes a nomad and he goes into performance, and how he made his way here, and how the odds of all of this happening are crazy, which brought a sense of wonder and awe and also gratitude for all the things that life has put on my lap, and also brought this extra curiosity around what else am I going to do with the opportunities that I have at hand. Right? So that was another insight. And the last one, I remember this, I was meditating. Finally, my mind was getting into this state, and I'll explain how I was able to do that. And at some point, I open up my eyes, and we have at least here 76 males meditating and another 50 women there meditating. So I opened up my eyes, I looked around, and I thought, each one of these humans are fighting with their own mind. And I realized that whenever I fight with my mind, we both lose. Therefore, I needed to make peace with my mind. And that's when I realized the following. If my mind was going into the past or the future, into craving, into aversion, it was bringing these distractions over and over again, and I was scolding the mind as if it would be a dog, sending the dog away, and don't come anyway, right? Don't come ever. And then the dog would come 3 seconds later with the same distraction. I was creating this loop, infinite loop of misery. And so I thought, what would happen if I apply this strategy? I said, what if, I said, and I started acting on this. Next time the mind comes with a distraction, I just understand where is it in those 4 quadrants. And instead of scolding the mind, I just thank the mind for bringing this, because the intellect is a fantastic thing. The intellect is a fantastic thing. Whether it's imagination or memory or creativity, it's fascinating. So this is it. Mind brought a distraction that I did not want, and instead of myself scolding the mind, I just grabbed what it brought, and I looked at it and I said, thank you. We don't need it at this moment. Really appreciate it. Immediately the mind started relaxing. It would leave, and it would take a little longer to come back. But eventually it will come back, and it will bring something else. And we'll look at it. Thank you. Really appreciate it. We don't need it anymore at this moment. Thank you. And the mind would relax, go away, and it will take longer to come back. And eventually we'll come back, and we will do again the same thing. That is where my mind started finally relaxing, and we started working in tandem instead of fighting. So with that being said, remember that the mind is an operating system. You're not the mind. The mind is your operating system, right? Now, that didn't end up there only. There were a few other things that happened. At some point, finally, I'm meditating. I'm in this very relaxed, very, very trance state. Mind is getting out of the future, out of the past. It's in the present. It's not craving. It's not averting anything. And I started realizing something. My heartbeat and my breathing pattern, in other words, were very, very shallow and slow. Now, many people will say shallow is bad and deep is good. Well, this is my theory. For this nervous system, it was like a depth like this in air, let's say here. My full depth is obviously here, let's say, but it was half or less than half. But it was so slow. It was like inhale. There was a little bit of a pause. A longer exhale, very, very slow. A longer pause at the bottom. And then again, inhale. So that is what I coined as my equanimous breathing pattern. Meaning a specific breathing pattern because of the posture, because of the tempo and everything, the count, that was reflective of the way that my mind was in this equanimous state, which led me to think, maybe each person has their own equanimous breathing pattern. So when the mind is off track, obviously we can meditate our way into this, or the other way is using the physiology, using this same pattern that we have found to get the mind back into equanimity. And guess what? That's working. We're going to talk more about how you can find your own equanimous breathing pattern in another video. But just to finalize, two of the most important things that I learned also during the retreat were practical aspects, a practical and experiential understanding of two things: acceptance and acceptance and impermanence. Acceptance and impermanence. Those two abstract concepts, unless they are felt, they remain in the land of just illusion. So acceptance of the moment. Imagine this. I'm in this 10-day retreat, no communication. I want to reach out to family. I would like to reach out to people that I love, and I cannot do it. There's no other way. I need to accept where I was. I needed to accept everything that was happening. I needed to accept all the BS that my mind revealed about myself and say, okay, but it also brought very good stuff, things that I didn't realize about myself that I love about it. Just accepting the way it is. That helped me to deal with reality as it was in that moment. Obviously, I can still use my intellect to plan ahead and to strategize for future projects or initiatives, for sure, but without the need to move into imagination and create a scenario or craving and aversion in the future, right? I can still use it, or I can still use my intellect from this point of equanimity, of acceptance of reality, to look into the past and learn from that without getting into, again, craving or aversion, but just extracting the lessons. And the point of impermanence was key. It was not just a theoretical impermanence. We started at some point meditating and scanning different parts of the body, progressively scanning different parts. And obviously, if you're sitting for hours and hours in the same position without moving, your body aches. Now, the goal of this meditation was to scan the body, notice if there is discomfort, and just observe it, knowing that it will finish sooner or later. Now, same thing. If you were finding comfort, we would scan the body, we will find some comfort, and we will think this is also going to pass. That was actual impermanence practice. That was the muscle of impermanence. So, just to recap, we talked, well, some of the techniques or tactics that I want to share with you are this technique of allowing the mind to come with anything. Do not scold in the mind, and instead just think in the mind and just letting it go. That was one thing. The 4 quadrants, that's going to be another video for you to take a look at this framework that I have. Then the principle of equanimity, when the mind is not into craving, is not into aversion, is not into past and the future, is right here, right now. And from there, we can use the intellect with more quality. Then the breathing pattern, realizing when we're in that equanimous state, what is our equanimous breathing pattern. And the last 2 principles, acceptance of reality as it is and impermanence. Everything will last. Wait a second. Everything will be over and there will be a new beginning, I should say. Yeah, that's better. Well, now I would like to ask what resonated with you. I'm really curious to know what parts of this special episode resonated with you, what parts did not resonate with you, what questions you have, what comments you have, what can you teach me from your experience. Please, I would really love to hear your comments, to read your comments, and keep up the conversation. I hope that this special episode was beneficial to you so that you can learn from my expertise and optimize your own life. I invite you to subscribe to the channel, to the newsletter, or to any other of social media. And until we meet next time, keep learning, keep optimizing. See you soon.